Assalamu alaikum, grade 5. Today, we will read the preview sidebar about our upcoming reading text. It will provide information about the text, its genre, and how the text fulfills different learning points. Please open your student book, page 133, and let's start reading. The Sound of Money and the Smell of Soup. This story is a Turkish folktale about a boy who is accused of stealing something. Folktales are stories that have been passed down through generations. They usually contain a valuable lesson that the reader can learn from. As you read, think about the characters, the setting, the problem, and the solution. This will help you summarize the story. So, what is the title? The title is The Sound of Money and the Smell of Soup. What is the genre? The genre is a Turkish folktale. What is the story about? The story is about a boy who is accused of stealing something. Let's study more about folktales. Folktales. What are folktales? Folktales are short stories that have been told orally from generation to generation. These stories tend to have unknown author. Elements of folktales. Usually, folktales begin with once upon a time or a long, long time ago. Have a problem to be solved. Sometimes have animals that act like people. Usually have three characters, tasks, or events. Includes phrases that are repeated over and over. Always have a happy end. Usually contain a valuable lesson that the reader can learn from. Folktales can come from all over the world. There are many kinds of folktales. African folktales, Native American folktales, and Turkish folktales. I want to remind you that by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to summarize this story. So you need to focus on the title, setting, main character, main idea, and important events. Now it's time to read our text in order to understand it and make connections between other cultures and our own lives. Please open page 134, 135. Before reading, please, can you describe what you see in these pictures? A man smelling something which seems to be delicious. Another man with huge muscles is stirring the food in the pot with a wooden spoon. How does this man look? This man seems to be aggressive. Now, let's move to the other picture on page 135. The two men are sitting with an old man who seems to be wise. Let me tell you about this old wise man. This old wise man is a Hoja. Hoja is the title which means scholar or teacher. There are many series of Turkish folk tales about the Hoja. Some people think the character is based on a real person named Nasruddin Hoja, who was wise and lived around the year 1208. What about the title? The Sound of Money and the Smell of Soup. What do you understand from this title? The story is mainly about money and soup. So now, I think you are ready to start reading. Let's begin.
Page 134. Read. The Sound of Money and the Smell of Soup.
Many more years ago than anyone can remember, there was a young man named Erman who lived in a village in the kingdom of Atinka, a country far away from everywhere. Erman had little money. In fact, he only had 3 gold coins. One day, Erman went on a journey to find a job. He traveled over land and sea, through deserts and forests, across rivers and mountains, until he arrived in a city. As he looked around, he was fascinated by the sights, sounds, and smells of the market. There were people selling jewels, spices, leather, delicate vases, and clothes. There were donkeys, sheep, goats, and camels. There were musicians banging drums and playing flutes. Surely here, Erman would find a job. Erman saw a sign, "Room to Rent." Very nervously, he knocked at the door. A terrifying man with huge muscles opened it. "What do you want?" the man hollered rudely. "A room, please, sir," answered Erman politely. "3 gold coins," replied the man. He looked fierce. Erman began to shake. But, said Erman. "3 gold coins," repeated the man aggressively. Erman had no choice. Handing the man the only 3 coins he had, he went up to his room.
Many more years ago than anyone can remember. What clues does the sentence give that this is a folk tale? This sentence implies that the story took place in the distant past at an unknown time. What about this phrase? A country far away from everywhere. This phrase implies that it is not a real place. Who is the main character? Erman is the main character. Why did Erman travel? Erman traveled to find a job. What did he want? He wanted to rent a room. How much did he pay? He paid the only 3 gold coins he had.
The next morning, Erman woke up early. He was starving. What was that delicious smell? It was a tasty mixture of chicken, carrots, spices, herbs, and garlic. Erman's stomach made a growling noise like a tiger. He galloped down the staircase, following the smell with his nose in the air. In the kitchen, the rude man was stirring a pot of soup as big as a bathtub with a wooden spoon. Several people were waiting to pay for their lunches. Erman turned to the man bravely and said, "May I have some of that mouth-watering soup?" 3 gold coins, yelled the man threateningly. But, said Erman. He didn't have any gold coins left. So he went back up to his room. He pulled a chair onto his balcony. From there he could smell the soup with all its tempting flavors. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Erman sucked in the air and imagined he was eating the greedy man's soup. "What are you doing?" yelled the man. He was standing on the street, staring up at Erman. "Nothing," said Erman shyly. "I was just smelling your delicious soup." "You are a thief!" screamed the man. "You have stolen my smells. I will take you to court and make you pay for the smell of my soup." He dragged Erman down the staircase, along the street, and straight into the law court.
Who is the other character? The owner of the room is the other character. What did Erman ask the man about? Erman asked the man for some of the mouth-watering soup. Did the man agree? No, the man didn't agree. Why? Because he wanted 3 gold coins. What did Erman do? Erman went back to his room and started smelling the soup from his balcony. Why did the man yell? The man accused Erman for stealing the smell of his soup. And what did he decide to do? He decided to take Erman to the court in order to pay for the smell. Can a person actually steal a smell? Of course not. Why did the man say Erman was stealing the smell? He said that because he wanted more money. How does the man speak? The man speaks rudely and aggressively. He screams and yells a lot. How does Erman speak? Erman speaks politely and shyly.
In the court, the Hoja, who was a wise man and a judge, was reading a newspaper, as he often did. Everybody asked him to decide who was right and who was wrong. That was the Hoja's job. The Hoja looked at Erman, and then he looked at the terrifying man. "What's the problem?" he asked. "This boy has stolen my smells!" screamed the man. His face was purple with anger. "And you want to be paid for the smells?" asked the Hoja. "Yes, I do!" bellowed the man. "Then I will pay you," said the Hoja calmly. He took 3 gold coins from his pocket, and one by one, he threw them into a metal bowl. "There you are," said the Hoja, returning to his newspaper. "You can leave now." But, where's my money?" cried the man. The Hoja looked at the man over the top of his newspaper. "I have paid you for the smell of soup, with the sound of money," the Hoja said fiercely. "Now, go away."
Who is the third character? The Hoja is the third character. What is the Hoja's job? The Hoja is a wise man and a judge who decides that is right and that is wrong. How does the Hoja teach the greedy man a lesson? He let him hear the sound of money as a payment for the smell of soup. What lesson did he teach him? He taught him that he can't take someone's money for nothing. Thank you for listening. I think now that you are ready to solve exercise A and B, page 135, and to summarize the story as soon as possible. Good luck!